Well, as we wrap up 2019, we take a look back at the year that was in the United States, from a trade war with China to preparations for the 2020 presidential campaign and the impeachment inquiry against President Donald Trump. It's been a huge year for the president and his country. For more, I am joined by US Study Centre and Sky News contributor Bruce Wolpe. Bruce, thank you so much for your time today.
Good to be here. Big year ahead.
Another big year. Let's start with the impeachment, of course. It's taken a back seat as Congress celebrates the festive holidays, but what can we expect when they return?
They're going to come back right at it. They're back a week from Monday. We are at a sort of hyper-partisan impasse right now. The House, as you know, impeached the president on a straight party line vote. All the Democrats for it, all but two Democrats for it, all Republicans against it. And then Nancy Pelosi did something rather surprising. She said, wait a minute. Before we send the formal articles of impeachment over to the Senate for a trial, we're concerned about what that trial is going to look like. She says that the Democrats expect witnesses and documents and testimony and make it a proper proceeding. The Senate Republican leader has said, I'm working hand in glove with the White House. The president is not guilty of an impeachable offense, and it's sort of an open and shut case, and there is no case. And this is causing a little bit of a deadlock right now. I think it will be broken shortly after they're back, because you can't hold this thing up. It is not a normal state of affairs for the president to be impeached. It is difficult for the country. It's difficult for America's standing in the world. And you need to go through it one way or the other on a prompt basis. So I think they will work it out. I think they will work out some compromise on witnesses, and it will proceed. But it just shows how fraught with politics and partisanship this is, and that is not going to go away.
So no delay then for the trial, you don't think?
I don't think so. Nothing was going to happen this week anyway.
Yes.
The earliest a trial can get underway is within a week of returning in January. I believe that will occur. But again, if it extends into a huge deadlock, you get into February, the presidential primaries, the State of the Union address, and it really does complicate the political, legislative, and issues agenda for the country.
So how long would the trial run for then, Bruce?
The Clinton trial ran for about 4 weeks, and I think this would be around the same time. The Democrats want Mick Mulvaney, the chief of staff, and John Bolton, the national security advisor, to testify. And they're saying we really need to hear from them. And they're also saying, if everything is so innocent, Mr. President, why are you shielding these people from coming before Congress? And the president is saying, this is a witch hunt, a conspiracy, it's unconstitutional. I hate it, and I don't want to participate in it, and go away. So somehow a bridge has to be found over that chasm, but I think they will.
What do you think the result will be?
The result will be that the president will be acquitted. It will take 20 Republican senators to vote against the president for a conviction and removal from office. Unless there is something so explosive that no one has ever seen or heard it before, I can't see that happening, and nor can any Republican, and frankly, nor can the Democrats. But the Democrats do want to push this to a conclusion.
He secured some support on job approval.
Yes, it's ticked up a few points since impeachment began, and is that a worry for the Democrats? Is there blowback on what they're doing? And does this hurt their standing going into the election year? And have they undercut their credibility and stature and so forth? But the president's approval rating is now in the mid-40s. It started the year at about 40%. And that was under the shutdown of the government a year ago. That was highly unpopular. It did affect the president's standing. But the amazing thing is, sort of, we were saying just before going on air, we've had all these tumultuous events, and everything is sort of the same. The president has his base. He's in the mid-40s in support. He has not cracked 50%. That would be a really significant development for him if he was able to do that. Presidents who are above 50% in election years tend to get reelected.
Yeah.
I do think the president's prospects for reelection have to be stated as at least 50-50. And that means it's going to be a really tight competitive contest. It depends a lot on who the Democrats nominate, how far left they go, and whether they can attract the center. But the president ends the year in essentially the same position as he began, a very strong base of support in about 40 to 45% of the country.
Now, a big milestone during the year, Bruce, was the Phase 1 trade deal with China. When do you think the official trade signing will occur?
I think the president wants that signed while the impeachment trial is going on. He does, because what does he want to show? I am president.
Yeah.
I'm executing on my foreign policy agenda, and this is a very important trade deal for the country. And he wants to show that actually, business as usual, but good business for America. The president really wanted the trade agreement signed in Iowa, where the farmers are, and to show that China was purchasing agricultural products. I cannot see President Xi traveling to Iowa to sign a trade agreement with President Trump. So I think you have to look for some neutral territory. If it is to be in the United States, and that would be a significant step for the Chinese leader to take to come to a United States for a signing. You can think about Hawaii. It's halfway between the two countries. When President Obama met President Xi, they did it in California, in an estate near Los Angeles. You also then think of Asian neutral territory, Singapore, where the summit with the first summit with Chairman Kim occurred with President Trump. So I think it will be in a neutral place, not in China, not in the United States. I think Trump wants this signed as early as possible to show that he is the president of the United States and he is executing his agenda.
Also this year, Bruce, of course, there was much controversy about the issue. He was cleared from the Mueller report.
Yes, this was a big win for him. The Mueller report, he was dogged from the beginning of his presidency by allegations that there was a collusion, a conspiracy with the Russians, and that there was obstruction of justice. He fired the FBI director, and was that part of a scheme to suppress an investigation of the president? And the Mueller report on the collusion charge cleared Trump. There was no conspiracy that he found. And on obstruction of justice, Mueller was unable to say that he should be indicted for obstruction of justice, and that was cleared. And so impeachment was dead. And then the Ukraine call occurs the day after Mueller testifies, and here we are with impeachment. So Trump won something big, but impeachment is proceeding on a different set of issues and facts. And what does this mean? The president feels besieged, that every day of his presidency he's had to face people who want him removed from office one way or another. And that's why he is so angry. I mean, if it happened to me, I'd be angry. and he really is under a lot of pressure. And he wants vindication in a very, very desperate way.
He hasn't secured a deal yet with North Korea. What do you think his next move will be there?
Well, we're going to see what Chairman Kim does with North Korea. Now, he threatened a Christmas surprise. Christmas is come and gone, unless we're talking about the Orthodox Christmas. It's coming up, and maybe it's going to be then. But on a very serious note, North Korea is under immense pressure from U.S. sanctions. That country is really hurting. And Kim is an immense dictator, and he is really oppressing his country. Kim wants relief from the sanctions. Trump wants something on progress towards denuclearizing Korea. Neither has happened. And so Kim has said, he said some weeks ago, you have until the end of the year to come show us a roadmap as to how we're going to get out of here, and we can work things out. That hasn't happened. And he said, unless that happens, there will be a Christmas surprise. So most people think it could be in two types of areas. It could be an intercontinental ballistic missile launch, a test that shows that he has the capacity to strike the United States, or it could be a nuclear weapon of a detonation of a nuclear weapon of a different order of magnitude from previous testing that would show a nuclear capacity. So we're in everyone's in a nice mood after Christmas, but this could change very suddenly and put the two sides back on a confrontation path as opposed to a negotiation path.
Bruce, let's take a look into the future. What will the big U.S. headlines be next year, do you think?
The next president of the United States will be inaugurated on January 20th. And that could be President Trump. It could be another person. And that is the two things we don't know going into the year. Who the Democratic nominee will be, it is just not clear. You have Joe Biden, who is the front runner, just in national polls, but as you go state by state, other candidates are there. And there is the issue, as we mentioned earlier, are the Democrats going to go hard left and ideological, just like Jeremy Corbyn and Labour did in the UK, and will they suffer the same fate? Or will they go with the older trusted person, Biden, or will they find a new face, Pete Buttigieg, Senator Amy Klobuchar, and how the Democratic ticket is put together? So we don't know who the nominee will be, and we do not know if President Trump will be elected. But again, his prospects, he has to feel pretty good about his prospects going into this year. He's taken all these hits, all this pressure, and he's come through. His base is intact. He dominates the Republican Party. They are behind him. There's no deviation. He's raising money. Impeach me, fine. I'm raising a lot of money to throw against the Democrats. So he feels really good on the bank account side. So I think the president feels he's in a pretty strong position.